Hey guys, welcome to the review show. My name's Austin, and today we're going to be doing a three-part series. Hopefully, I don't know when this will be up, but hopefully we can get one review out a week for the Snyder's DC trilogy. So we're going to be starting out with Man of Steel for with Peter. He's going to be throughout this whole entire series. This was originally supposed to be a like exclusive episode on the Big Talk with Austin, but I mean things happen and we're not going to do like an audio commentary, which I was hoping that we can do something different, but reviews fine, whatever. And so we're going to be talking about Man of Steel, which is my favorite out of Snyder's out of the trilogy, and we can explain the other ones when we get to those. But and personally, I really enjoyed Man of Steel. I feel like it's more darker than you expect it to be, and that's why it doesn't really do well. But that's the reason why I like it, because of how dark it is and like the new perspective of Superman. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on Man of Steel, Peter?
Man of Steel. Man. Man of Steel is probably my favorite comic book movie ever. It might be my favorite movie ever. I'm a huge Superman fan. I read countless Superman comics. And to see Superman portrayed so well, and obviously Man of Steel is a polarizing movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and obviously a lot of people complain that it's too dark and whatnot. Like I honestly don't think Man of Steel is a dark movie. I think it's a serious movie. Like I think it's a Superman movie, a comic book movie that takes itself seriously, and people were so caught up with Christopher Reeve's Superman and
Mm-hmm.
that portrayal of the character and that iteration of Superman. And so when you have that version of Superman just on the big screen for 35 years with no other changes, even Brendan Routh's Superman, he's basically literally supposed to be Christopher Reeve's Superman. And then so you go 35 years without like a different iteration of the character. Then you get to Man of Steel. Everyone has latched so tightly on to that one version of the character, Christopher Reeve Superman, that if you deviate from it, people will complain and say that it's not a good representation of Superman. When, in all actuality, just the portrayal of Superman, Henry Cavill Superman, is more comic accurate than Christopher Reeve Superman is actually.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know that much on the comics side. I mean, I know certain things, I know a little bit of things, but you're the one comic expert, and so that's mostly the reason why I brought you on, because you know more than me, so you can mostly explain things. And so, but the one thing I don't like about movies is like, and next when people tell me it's like, I mean, if you want to understand the movie, go read the comments. Like, I hate that. I hate being told that it's like shouldn't need to read a comic book to understand a movie. And we'll get to BVS when that comes around. And so this is one of the reasons why I don't like BVS, because it's like I've been told it's like, well, if you read the comments, you would know who it is. It's like I don't. It's like I don't. I mean, it's like I do know who is. It's just like they kind of come up out of nowhere. It's like, what is your like motive? It's not really clear, and so it's like you're pointless. I get your, and so it's like, and when I saw them, and when I saw Man of Steel, it doesn't really feel like a comic book movie. It feels like something new and generally trying to start something, and it doesn't feel like it's well, I wouldn't say trying hard, like too hard. It's just not like shoving it in your face. It's like, hey, here's these characters. It's like, oh, you're supposed to know this character. Oh, and like, because they give backstories for these characters like Zod. We start out on Krypton, and we find out there's a civil war going on between them, and Zod is the leader. And we learn a little bit about Zod, but not that much. But, um, like, did they explain the reason for the civil war? I don't exactly
Yeah,
remember.
basically, Zod is essentially trying to take over and be like the new leader of Krypton, essentially. And like at that time, what the intro on Krypton basically shows us, it basically tells us all everything about Zod that we really need to know,
Mm-hmm.
and basically everything about Kryptonians we need to know. Like essentially at that point in time, they have been, um, I guess you could say, creating. and birthing Kryptonians with a specific programmed purpose in mind for them to fulfill in their life.
Mm,
So they've essentially removed the element of choice, which is one of the big themes of Man of Steel,
mm-hmm.
is the element of choice. And you really see that with the Kryptonians and their
Like,
philosophy on life.
like
They've become
no creating birth or something like that, because I
mhm,
feel like because they didn't know about Superman, and so apparently that's against the law to create children, which is
mhm.
a kind of weird law. I mean, are you sure you don't want to continue your species? But that's fine. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean the reason that they have that is because they I guess you could say artificially create um, Kryptonian babies. That's basically what they do.
mhm.
If they artificially, so it's just they're not having actual like childbearing at that time. So
After this whole entire civil war on Krypton, they get stuck in a black hole. Well, before that, um, Zod and his team, or his small crew, get put in the, what is it called? I can't
the
actually
Phantom
remember.
Zone.
That's what, yeah, the Phantom Zone, and so, which is basically a prison, and you can't escape, and they somehow escape. And I get they kind of explain it like in Superman 2, in his, you know, with, and back in his, I kind of wish they kind of dived into a little bit of that here. It's like, kind of explain how he got out, but he's like, oh, we're free. I'm out. And now I need to find this guy named Superman, or well, it's not, well, his name's not Superman, but his name is,
Kal-El.
that's right. And so,
And it actually does kind of explain it. It says basically they were
he's,
essentially
well, he
released
doesn't also
when
show up until like the end of the movie as well. So, which is
well,
also,
yeah, because they basically show that it after Krypton is destroyed, because that's essentially what is holding the Phantom Zone together at that point, like them, and the Kryptonians being locked there, but they still couldn't get away. So they're no longer like locked in, but they're still like trapped in the Phantom Zone. But then the world in um, is what essentially allows them to escape.
okay. So when the planet gets destroyed, they are allowed to be free, essentially.
Essentially, yeah.
So they were trapped for like 5 minutes, and they were pissed off because they were trapped because of him.
well, I mean, not it wasn't 5 minutes. There is Man of Steel doesn't the movie doesn't specify the exact amount of time that passes between when they're put in the Phantom Zone, but when the planet actually explodes. But we can tell by um, Laura, Kal-El's mother, basically how she's dressed and everything, that there has been some amount of time that has
Okay.
passed.
After they sent,
Um,
yeah, okay.
yeah, after they said, and even then they still had to actually find a way to escape too. So, but the movie doesn't necessarily specify how long they were in there, and that's not necessarily like an important plot point either that like we need to know. So,
Yeah. I mean, so, but weren't they getting sucked into a black hole as soon as Superman was sent off as well? So I don't know, like, I don't know, because that, I don't
yeah.
know,
So,
they couldn't
so
really have that big of a time jump.
yes, I mean essentially so Superman is sent off before they're even put in there, basically.
Because it felt
And
like they were
so
put in right after he left, so that's why I'm, and
yeah,
they said
so I
black
mean,
hole and all that.
basically they we know that they're trapped there for less than 33 years because Superman at the time of Man of Steel is he's 33.
Kind of did Zod too early. I feel like the first movie, well, it's not like we're gonna get Man of Steel 2, but if we ever did, I feel like Zod should have been in that movie at least.
Well,
But I mean,
I I
at
think
least at the
that
end of
like
this movie, it kind of sets up BVS sort of like, oh, Superman, won't kill her or anything like that, or something like that. But I mean, it doesn't really change that much. It's just like, it's like, here's a villain so Superman can fight, which should set up Doomsday and BVS, which that's another story. But I feel like they just, I think they were just trying to get a trilogy out, but it's not like I didn't like Zod. I just didn't. I feel like he could have been used a little bit more later on, if that kind of makes sense. I feel like this movie should have focused more on, hey, there's this new being out here, which it does. I mean, it does and it doesn't. But he doesn't really do anything until Zod comes. So I feel like if they, had like a big baddie, maybe they could have set up like Lex Luthor, and actually, that could have followed into BVS because in the comics, Lex Luthor, the reason why he has against Superman is because he keeps following his plans, and so that's another reason for BVS. We'll get into that later. So I mean, you could have done stuff like that, and there could have been like a somewhat villain at the end. I don't know, but I feel like I think Zod could have been left for the next film, but they kind of needed him for BVS, I guess. But
Well, I mean, I think honestly that Zod, or especially for a movie that is very much about Superman's finding his humanity and his identity and his purpose,
mm,
Krypton is a huge reason for that. So I feel like either choosing Zod or Brainiac, like a a villain that is like rooted in his Kryptonian heritage, is a super super good choice. So I personally love the choice of Zod as the first villain, especially going along with the themes that Man of Steel sets up.
mm,
Um, I I think Michael Shannon's performance is like great, great, like top tier comic book movie villain performance.
you can't beat Superman 2 Zod. You
I
can't.
thought honestly, I think he's better because he's not just a one-dimensional villain. Terrence Stamp was great as well. He played, Zod in Man of Steel. I mean, in Superman too. But I
Mm,
think that Michael Shannon Zod has like you actually kind of sympathize with him because he's this character this character who he was created for one purpose, and that was literally to protect Krypton. Like everything that he is doing is like you could literally view things from his perspective and his point of view at a
mm,
point, and view like, oh, like he's ultimately just trying to help his people.
yeah,
Like he's just doing what he views as good for Krypton.
yeah.
And so that's was his whole thing in the movie is, which is one of the reasons that I love his motivations and love Michael Shannon's performance as well.
So moving on to the farm. So Superman crashes on the Clint's farms, and so and this is where we get a big time jump. We go 30 years or so, something like that.
Yeah,
And so, and honestly, I kind of wish we didn't jump 30 years. I kind of wish because it goes back and forth and like, flashbacks. It's like, really? It's like, I kind of would have liked to see, teen Superman sort of and see what he would have been going through. And that's why I like Bright Burn, even though it's not really a Superman movie. I just feel like it would have been. I feel like it would have been different. It's not like I. It's not. And next, like because so the first act could have been about teen Superman. Third act be like, okay, this is where he's not third act, but second act would be like, okay, this is where he is, and trying to figure out like and the themes would continue on. It's like he's trying to figure out his place in the world. Next, the third act, Zod and all that happens, and he goes and fights that. And I feel like it would have been a nice, smooth little story. I mean, yeah, there've been like time jumps between, but I feel like it would be cohesive. And so in next, so I don't know. What's your thoughts?
yeah. Like I mean, I can understand why you should say that. So Man of Steel's biggest single comic influence was from Superman Earth One,
Mhm.
and it Superman Earth One is structured almost like identically to Man of Steel, where he's like in his like early beginnings as Superman, basically like trying to figure out really what he wants to do, and should he use his powers and protect Earth, um and it essentially like goes back and forth. It goes like and it flashes back. So it like he's going through a certain something in his life at that point, and then it will flash back
Relate to
to
what's
and then
going
show like
on.
what his childhood.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how Man of Steel is structured. So it definitely took the biggest inspiration from Superman Earth One, which is which honestly, that's probably my favorite Superman origin comic, which is probably another reason that I love Man of Steel so much.
Hmm.
And it's it takes heavy inspiration from like Man of Steel. The big comic influences are from so Superman Earth One, John Byrne's Superman run. It borrows heavily from his Man of Steel run, and then just in terms of the portrayal, it takes a lot of inspiration from Dan Jurgens' Superman, who's probably like the greatest Superman writer of all time, and he wrote like the death of Superman, and he created Doomsday in the black suit and all that. And so, well, I'm sure I'll bring him up in the future while we're, whether in this episode or in future episodes. So,
Hmm. So and we so they kind of follow the Superman trope. I mean, he loses his father figure, and
mhm.
and so and they kind of go off. They kind of well, when he dies, he kind of they kind of went off the wrong foot, and so and like the whole point of his father figure, which I can't remember his name off the top of my head,
Jonathan Kent.
Jonathan Kent, um, he basically wanted to, like his basically theme throughout the whole entire story was like making sure that Clint stays safe. Not Clint, but Clark stays safe, and like not show his powers or do anything like that, and just like be a normal person, in which he can't really do. And he's like, and there's been like scenes like, hey, I mean, when there's something that's happening, don't do anything. And there's like, a scene where with the tornado, and he knows he's gonna die, and makes Clark can Clark knows he can save him, but he's like, the world isn't ready for you. Don't don't do anything. This is my time. And so and that kind of carries a little bit over in like BVS, sort of like, I mean, I think some point Lois Lane like talks about, is the world really ready for you? Does the world like need you at this moment? And so, and that's the one thing I really like about um like BBS and Man of Steel. Like these themes still carry over and like relate to each other. And so, and I really like the farther line. He kind of comes back. No, he doesn't come back. That's the other farther. Yeah, yeah. He has two dads. So and I don't know.
Yeah, like even with like how he, I guess I'll address this now, obviously. But a lot of people do have a problem with the way that Jonathan Kent died and that whole scene, how he died in a
How
tornado.
does he die in the comics? Like
No, he
I
dies in
think
the comics. It's more so like how he dies, which I don't have a
he
problem
has
with, and I can
multiple deaths in the comics.
yeah, like he dies. Sometimes it's in a car accident. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
obviously like okay, so I'll just bring this up now. So in Superman the movie, he dies with a heart. Jonathan Kent dies because of a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so many people, the vast majority of people, especially people who complain about how Jonathan Kent died in Man of Steel, they view that as like the de facto way that like Jonathan Kent always dies, which isn't true. Like primarily up until that point in the comics, the death of Jonathan Kent wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like it served no big major story purpose. It was basically just there because like, okay, yeah, his parents died. It would take up like one page in the comic and then like it's over, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And this takes over like most of the movie as the plot.
yeah,
And
but
so.
then in Superman the movie when that came out back in 1978, after the movie used it kind of like as a plot point, about how um like oh like no despite your powers like all the powers you have you can't save everyone.
Yeah. And that was a
And it
line
used
in Man of Steel as well, in sort of a
yeah,
weird
but
way.
like with Superman the movie it was like oh yeah, even with all your powers like oh people are still gonna have heart attacks and do things like that. um like you can't save everyone. But so after that happened a lot of a lot of comic books took inspiration from that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But not only and I guess I'll after before I go into like really Man of Steel and the themes that and the point that Jonathan's death is supposed to get across in that movie, I will say this. For those people who like are super critical of um, the Man of Steel, Jonathan Kent death, and really love the Superman the movie Jonathan Kent death. Um, Superman the movie basically undoes that entire premise through the end of the movie because Superman literally goes and rewinds time,
Yeah.
essentially proving that yeah, technically he can save everyone.
I
You know,
mean, I
and
would
he
have liked
saves
to
like
see that
Lois
Man of
Lane
Steel,
and
see how
everything.
that they would have done something with that. But
Yeah, which I mean, I personally think that's kind of like a dumb trope. Thinking
well,
like, oh yeah,
it
Superman
is.
can fix
But I
anything.
mean, it's Superman.
Yeah,
I think in a modern movie, I think that some people would like to see how they would have done that, and I think that's another reason why Man of Steel kind of failed. Well, I wouldn't say failed, but did not as good. Is because like because of the Superman of the movies, like he can fly around the world and flat um change back time, and does it explain in the comic books how far he can go back exactly? Because I don't think he can go that
I
far
mean
back.
that's not that's it. Now Superman in the Silver Age had like ridiculous powers. Like he could literally
Hmm.
shoot mini versions of himself out of his hand at one point. Like yeah, it was kind of weird. But it was there was never like a big like thing with comics. I'm pretty from my understanding and my knowledge, the him reverse like turning back Earth and everything and reversing time originates in Superman the movie. And so that's where a lot of like so many tropes that so many people have like the surface level shallow um like understanding of Superman
Hmm.
where they just view him as like just Superman as an icon, but they don't actually delve into Superman as like the character, which Man of Steel very much does. And
Hmm.
even with the Jonathan Kent death scene, the whole point of it remember it goes along with the themes. It's about choice. So people will criticize like, oh, he could have saved him, but remember at this point he's supposed to be 17 at this time.
Yeah, and he can't fly. Well, he
Yeah,
probably
he
can.
he
He just
hasn't.
doesn't know.
No, yeah, he doesn't know he can fly. He doesn't actually tested the limits of his powers because he's done his best to keep it a secret.
Hmm.
And Jonathan Kent's concerns are all they're proven right after we see BVS with how a lot of the world reacts to Superman and a powerful figure being there. It's like, no, I mean, seriously, even think about in our world right now, how much, division and how much people are just going at each other's throats. And it's like, okay, we can't even get along with each other. What do you think would happen if like this super powered alien came down to Earth who could literally do whatever they wanted and could take over the world if they
And
so chose to?
which is a theme that carries on through these movies, and
Mm-hmm.
so and like
Because and yeah, and even like the last thing I'll say about the Jonathan Kent death, it's you know, Clark says right after it shows that scene that you know I let my father die because I trusted him because he was convinced that the world wasn't ready. And so it like even Jonathan Kent saving the dog. Some people say like, oh, why would you save your dog? There's so many
I mean, you
people
can't
who
let a
would
dog
save
die.
the
People
yeah.
people
No, not only
criticize.
that, but the whole point of that showing that Jonathan Kent went back for the dog is to show that oh yeah, the dog is not as valuable as like Clark, his like son and everything. And so by saying like no, son, stay there, don't come and save me, protect your secret, he's essentially showing that he's sacrificing himself for Clark and not the dog. So she basically discovers Clark's secret identity
Hmm.
and discovers who it is
Yeah,
and just like really discovers the
I
Kryptonian
like how
ship.
she can figure it out with no problem, but no, but no one else. I mean, exclude Lex Luthor. That's whatever, fine. It's like I can't really argue about that, but it's like Clark, literally Clark just literally puts glasses on. It's like hoping that no one recognizes him. I'm pretty sure in modern day with how much technology that we have, you would be able to figure out, hey, that's Superman over there. How the hell do you not notice? Like put the two pictures together. It is. I mean, so I feel like
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things where obviously one, yes, obviously they do it with comics, but two, um, in like from in Man of Steel, it's literally like it's like the first time he does anything. Like his battle with Zod at the end is literally the first exposure to this alien that people have, and
mhm.
even throughout BVS, we aren't shown that there's an actual clear picture of him of Superman. So
Oh,
people who see Clark Kent, it's like like even in comics and stuff, Lex Luthor doesn't believe that Clark Kent is Superman because he's like, why would Superman have a secret identity? Like most people would assume that Superman is Superman all the time.
Yeah, you
So
expect
that's like one
Superman
of
to
the
walk
things with
into a
that.
supermarket, dressed up as Superman. I mean, how else is he gonna buy food? Of course, he has a secret identity. But I mean, I think the secret identity stuff is, I feel like it's not like I don't like it. I think the point, like, if you're gonna set it in a modern day, it's gonna be people are gonna start recognizing it pretty fast. I mean, like the word, I mean, we seen that the word spreads pretty fastly. Like with Gina, whatever what she did and all that, that spread pretty fast. I mean, like if an alien came down to Earth and some new person that and some person, it's like okay, there's been a couple clear shots of Superman. I mean, like people have got some clear shots of Superman, and and especially that works at where Clark Kent works, and so if you put those in, some of those people should be able to recognize the two, and so I just feel like in a modern day, I just wouldn't buy the secret identity, and it doesn't really matter if you do in the next movie, and like he gives up his identity. It's like I feel like people would already know, and so, but I mean, I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
It's a
one of the
stupid
things
thing.
that no one is, people aren't actively looking for Superman on the streets. Like Henry
Well, no, they
Cavill
wouldn't
actually.
activate. They wouldn't actively like look for him. But if you're like looking around and you see someone, it's like, and you see Clark Kent, it's like, hmm, that he looks very familiar. And as you see
No, I mean,
Superman,
because that's one of the things too. Like he has obviously the glasses and like a different hairstyle, but not only so Henry Cavill, like right before BVS premiered, he stood around New York City wearing a Superman shirt, right under like giant like BVS posters that were like spread like splattered everywhere. And this like in the middle of New York City. No one recognized him. No one came up to him to say anything.
I would have. I would have 100% noticed that, but that's a different story. But
Yeah,
I
so
guess
like
so.
no, but like that's one of the things, and obviously this isn't like a really necessary topic. I mean, obviously this is kind of like just like a topic of we're talking about Superman,
Hmm.
which I'm more than down with, but like not necessarily like a discussion about like Man of Steel.
No, yeah.
But no, that's like one of the things. It's like no one like we always assume that people will just like recognize some, like because it's not like someone's like following him around and tracking him, and even like at the time of Man of Steel, like no one has any pictures of him basically.
Well, no, but by the end,
Like
you should
no
know.
one,
But
nothing that's clear,
especially
and
that
so
family that almost got killed, you're literally looking at directly at Superman. So, but so moving. I guess speaking of the final battle, do you feel so when people and that's what really hurt the film for like most people is like people Superman basically killed a bunch of people. There was a bunch of destruction,
well,
gas stations
Superman
were
didn't
open.
actually do it. It was
Well,
actually
no,
the
but
World
he
Engine and
was,
Zod.
but they blame him for it. And so because if he didn't come to Earth, none of this would have happened. But so and so I feel like and that's where the film falls for a lot of people. It's like I want to see Superman and next with Zod snapping his neck and people saying like Superman would never kill, and so and I feel like I disagree with that. I really like the final battle. I mean, there's a lot of product placement besides that, but I really like the final battle. I don't like how involved Lois Lane was. Like she was immediately used as the distressed girl. It's like okay, all right.
Well, the
Superman
reason
trope,
why
that's fine.
she's there so often, I mean, is being used by the military is because she's the only one who was shown by Jor-El how to defeat the Kryptonians. No one else was shown that information. That's why they take her with her. That's why the military takes her with them and everything. And even I mean, I think the action Man of Steel was like absolutely insane.
Hmm.
Um, I I would probably argue that overall it has probably the best fight scenes in a comic book movie and the best just action. The way it's just showing like these like gods among men, because that's really what like they are, like
Mm-hmm.
especially like Kryptonians. And so like obviously when they fight, it's going to be destruction. Not to mention this is like
Yeah.
Superman's like first day on the job. He learned to fly like, a few days ago before he actually has to go and fight. They very much like went with like, oh yeah, even if some like a Superman like powered being, like if they crashed to like the side of a building,
Ew.
the entire side of the building would like start to collapse. Whereas
Yeah.
like in Shazam, it's like, oh, a window broke because he hit it. You know what I mean? So I mean, yeah, but no, like people very much overstate the actual destruction that happened. One, over 90% of the destruction that happened was because of the world engine, which was destroying the city while Superman was literally on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Second off, Superman is like completely getting, if you watch the fight and actually like legit pay attention to it, he's getting his butt kicked, like for
Mm-hmm.
the majority of the fight.
Yeah.
Um, Zod is literally threatening that, like, oh yeah, I'm going to kill every single person on this planet because I have no chance of bringing Krypton back. And so he's like, oh, these people you've adopted, I will kill them all one by one.
And there's like
Uh,
some line in there like, why are you protecting them? They're clearly like scared of you. They don't want you here, or something like that. And so, and I feel like
no,
at some point he was actually ignorant. Like he was almost like, yeah, you're right. Hmm. Like it wasn't like, oh, that type of obvious, but he was like kind of thinking about it, and especially when he was showing him, um, this he was in this room that was like, showing like fields and all that, and like all the skulls. And so,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like it was on his minds, like maybe I'm on the wrong side, but it wasn't like, nudging him like fully in something. I feel like he was just like a little thought in his head.
Yeah,
And like,
he became like interested in bringing Krypton back
yeah,
when he found out, like, wait, we're trying to bring Krypton back? Like, I'd be down for that. But then Zod says, like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill all the humans to do it. And that's when he's like, no, I can't be a part of this.
yeah.
So but yeah, but like if you actually watch the final battle, Superman only like
He only kicks the asses of the crewmates. He doesn't actually beat Zod. So
no, yeah,
for
no,
this
but
one.
you see him um like scrape Zod's head on like the side of a building.
Mm-hmm.
You see him like when after Zod says either you die or I do, and then he starts like I guess climbing up the building, and they both collide with each other. That destroys like part of the building. And those are like the only two major things that Superman himself you could say is like actually responsible for.
You basically summed up basically everything, and that's one of the reasons why I brought you on, because I feel like if I just did it myself, it would have been like a normal review. But yeah, overall, I think Man of Steel is a good film. I mean, I would definitely watch it over BVS, Justice League, Shazam. I mean, I did enjoy Shazam, but it's not like something I would watch because it just reminds me a little bit of too much Marvel, and that's what I want from the DCU is to be a little bit more dark, and but keep somewhat the characters align with how they kind of remember, because I do like the previous Superman movies. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of that Superman, but more of what we and like what we got, and just combine them together. I wish we had that, because I feel like Superman kind of goes a little bit off what we would see him as in our imagination in the previous movie, because of what happens here, because he's like, I'm not going to go through this again, so I'm going to prevent all that. But and I feel like but overall, I feel like Man of Steel is a good movie. I would watch it over any DC movie. I would watch Wonder Woman, not 84, but I feel like it's just a two. I just don't like I just don't like this because even Zach's like had some. I feel there was like some interviews like taught like it's based off this comic book, and and like such and such. It's like, okay, why wasn't that explained in the movie? Why you explain that right here? It's like And so and there's like even still some of that stuff in this movie. Like there's like um his big ship that we didn't talk about, like the ship of the recording of his father. That was like wasn't really explained how that would. Well, I don't think it was. No, it was not. It was just like he found
Well,
it.
he downloaded you mean like the little like
Like
little
there's a there's a scene like that helicopter scene and it's like in the middle of the Arctic sort of,
yeah.
and so it's just like there. That's not like how did that get there? And he does have a holocron like has his actual birth father and he explains stuff, and he's just a big explainer, I guess, for the plot. And so and it just doesn't explain it doesn't really explain how did this get here, and why he was sent here, because they didn't really
You mean the
know.
ship? You mean the
Yeah, the
scout
ship.
ship?
Yeah, because it
Well,
was like the
you
ship
know,
had like a big reason
yeah,
for the
Jarrell
plot.
explains that Jarrell explains in the movie that the scout ship was sent when Krypton they were sending out like explorers and stuff, and it was sent like thousands and thousands of years ago, and it had just been buried there.
Okay, I might have missed that part because I don't actually remember that at all, because it just felt like this big ship that was there. And so, but overall, yeah, I don't like um uh characters' names that I can't remember. I don't like blank Lois Lane. I don't know why I couldn't remember her name. Overall, I don't like Lois Lane's character. I feel like she was just a big um miscast, and just a you know she was just put there for the love plot. And so and and like how telling the story in a certain way, I just feel like if they move scenes before, instead of doing like flashbacks, I would have liked the film even more. It's not like I don't enjoy watching it, it's just like for a story standpoint, I feel like it would have been a little bit more smoothly if they would have started with teen adult final battle and all that. But yeah, I guess knowing the comics a little bit would have enjoyed the film much better. But I don't know what would you give Man of Steel? You would give it an A+.
Just like yeah, before I like really break down my score, I just want to touch on a few other things. I know a couple things that you mentioned.
Okay.
Might as well just say this now, since we'll be kind of talking about. So, like, regards to Amy Adams, Lois Lane, obviously
Yeah.
you're not a big fan. Nothing wrong with that. Obviously I know that I because she's not my ideal casting for Lois Lane either. But what I will say, even just about like her look and everything, she is very much reminiscent of Dan Jurgens' Lois Lane, where she kind of has like auburn reddish hair. Um, and like I obviously do disagree with you about the whole like she doesn't really do anything, because I definitely do think she's like
Well,
she very much
I mean, she
does.
has scenes where she's investing about the this mysterious like stuff that's going around. But when stuff actually happens, Superman is always there to have to save her. I mean, and she on the ship kind of figures things out on her own to like get off, but that's mostly just the dad telling her where to go. And so she's kind of just thrown in for be the the girl to save, and that's
Yeah, I
um
mean that's just like every Superman trope ever. That's
it
like
is.
Superman saving Lois. So obviously, if you're not a
I,
fan of that,
she
then
should have been a little
yeah.
bit more of a badass. I mean, I would have liked to see her punch one of them, but then realize, oh wait,
I mean,
ow.
yeah, like you're not exactly gonna punch a
Well,
Kryptonian
no,
in
but
the,
she doesn't
you
know
know.
like she can't. But it would have been nice if she punched him and be
Well,
like done something.
I mean, she knows that these are Kryptonians, and she knows Superman's a Kryptonian. So if like can't really harm Superman, then
Well,
yeah.
she
I
doesn't know
mean, yeah, and
he's bulletproof or anything like that,
I mean, she
because they
knows
don't
he's like
discover.
basically, she knows he's like basically indestructible.
Well,
But I mean, like here's the thing. Like, obviously, Lois Lane is not always like is usually someone who's very much wants to get things done, wants to find the truth. She's not just this like person who like comes and wants to like who wants to fight people. Yeah, she like has some training. Like her father is actually, obviously this isn't discussed in Man of Steel. It's not really important to the movie at all.
And
But
then
in
yeah,
it,
she doesn't have any backstory to her character
yeah,
at all.
and well, I mean, here that's the thing too. Like, obviously, yes, I 100% agree with you. Like, Superman obviously gets by far the most character development.
Mhm.
But and so some people I will hear them say like, oh yeah, no one else got like character development. I thought like every other character was developed fine. Like people like other characters didn't necessarily have their arc. But let me ask you this: like, I'll bring up Spider-Man: Homecoming or something. What all do you know about Ned? What all does the movie say about Ned?
Well, okay.
You know what I mean? It's just like
Well,
they're
he's more of the comic relief, and I mean, like we learn that he's like Peter's best friend, and that's basically it, and he's a computer genius, and so and I get where you're. I'm probably gonna. I probably see where you're going with that, and I mean, and it's just like I don't know. I'm more of a Marvel fan than a DC fan, so we're gonna have a little
mhm.
bit more conflict, and so I don't expect them to explain that because it's like, oh, we get it. He's the comic relief, and I thought you were gonna go with Peter Parker, and I was gonna say like, oh, well, I mean, we already know Peter Parker's backstory. Do we really need to go through that again? And so, but
No, yeah, that's my point though. Like these are supporting characters. You know what I mean? And that's how it is for
yeah,
any. I'm not going to expect them to tell me everything about Ned's
but Lois
backstory.
Lane isn't a supporting character. She's a main character. She
Yeah,
should
but
be a
like at the
main
same
character.
time, like she is. But in that case, like if you're looking at her as like the love interest, is what all do we know about like MJ and Spider-Man: Far From Home? You know what I mean? It's just like movies only. There's only so much
Well, Far
time for
From Home
movies
is
to
not that good, so yeah.
yeah, no, but like there's only so much time for movies to really explore the backstory of like supporting characters. Like obviously we'll see, we'll talk about this when we get there, I'm sure, but like Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Mhm.
If there's gonna be 4 hours, it's going to actually delve into the backstory of all the different Justice League members we haven't seen. Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman. And so it'll actually tell us about those characters. And obviously we know stuff about Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. So that's not going to get delved into their backstory because we already know that.
Mhm.
But like those characters, and obviously it's a 4 hour movie, we're going to get things fleshed out. But like in these movies that are like 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 20 minutes, and even less than that, you only have a certain amount of time to tell a story. And so you got to do your best to really focus on the main character and then use all the supporting characters to really just help elevate that character, which I think all the supporting characters, really do. And they all serve their purpose in Man of Steel. Because I
Mhm.
mean, you could even look at that. Like, obviously, I get what you're saying. We don't know that much about Lois, but I don't really think we need to, and that wasn't the point. Because you can look at basically any movie, like literally any movie with supporting characters, and you can find that, like, oh yeah, it doesn't really explore their backstory all that
Mhm.
much. And
Well, if you're gonna bring her back and make and have her even more of a bigger character, you kind of need a little bit more of her backstory
yeah,
because
like yeah. I mean, we know everything we need to know, but she's a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter who's never going to back away from a story. But like Superman killing Zod at the end.
no, I actually really like that. I feel
Yeah,
like that would have because um with him not killing him, it would have been like, oh, it's just, oh, for hope. I know, yeah, yeah. It would have been a tropey ending, and him just snapping his neck. It's like this is the final straw. There's nothing else I can do. I feel like that would have been. It just made it. It just broke Superman.
hmm
It tore him apart, and you can even see that in BVS. Like it's like, oh, I didn't see that bomb over there, which it's like, and that it's just like what have he done if he did, like, because like I don't know, like, but it just it, like that plot carries on into the next film, and I just really like about that, and it's just like adds a little bit more to his character. He like I had to. I had no choice. He would have killed this family, innocent family, and I would have got blamed for it for not killing him. And so,
yeah, because like people try to say like, oh, Superman could have done this and he could have flown away and he could have done. It's like he's literally dealing with Kryptonian Hitler. Like he treats the humans as ants. If the fight continued longer,
He would have
he would have
lost.
only killed more people.
Well, and he would have
Like,
lost.
and he probably would have lost because Zod had just recently kind of figured out how to fly too.
Hmm.
And so you look at like the longer the fight goes on, the more people are going to die. Like
Yeah.
Superman basically saved the world twice on his first day, once from the World Engine, and the second time by killing Zod. And so obviously, like you look at
Yeah,
comics and
that's
stuff.
another
Superman,
thing. That's actually another thing. Like, why? So, why destroy the planet if you need it to recreate, your home?
you mean the World Engine?
Yeah, like because that was
Oh, so the
digging to
world,
the core to
yeah, the World
annex. That
Engine
would have
was
blown up the planet and ruined Zod's plan.
it wasn't trying to blow up the planet. Um it was basically it was terraforming the Earth. So it's basically going to like change up the Earth's electromagnetic field and
And
basically
possibly
changing the.
destroying the planet.
It wouldn't have destroyed the planet. That's not what it was doing.
Well, no, but
It was
if you think science, that science, if you change anything about the Earth, it would most likely crumble itself because that's not how the Earth was built
well
to be.
also I'm not 100% sure on the science of that, but you also consider the fact that this is Kryptonian technology we're dealing with.
I
And
get.
so they're like light years ahead of anything we have here on Earth.
Mm,
But no, yeah, like even with regards to like, him killing Zod, Superman, you obviously you look at comics, Superman is killed plenty of times in comics. Um, Second off, um, he, Superman in Superman 2, he literally, after Zod loses his powers. So this is in Man of Steel. He wouldn't have been able to like they wouldn't have been able to keep Zod captive anywhere.
no, they
They have
wouldn't have.
nowhere to hold him, and
You would
so
rather
he
have
like
Superman stare at him 24/7.
no, yeah, he had to unfortunately kill him. But Superman 2, he takes Zod's powers away, but then still breaks Zod's hand, throws him
Well,
to his
that's
death,
when he didn't have his
and
powers.
laughs. Yeah, and he then Superman laughs about it. Where like you don't have he literally could have taken him in, and then he smiles and laughs about it with Lois, like a psychopath would. Not actually, he's not actually a psychopath, but like when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah,
I don't remember how the laugh went. How did the laugh went?
it's a figure of speech. He basically
Oh,
like grinned about it with Lois and everything.
okay.
Like yeah, so it's not like a literal laugh, but like
It's like
that's
an evil little
he
laugh.
like no, yeah, he like grins about it with Lois, and it's like, oh, no one complained about that, but then people want to complain about this in Man of Steel, where
I
he
feel like because it
actually.
was on a bigger scale
That
than
is true. That is
so.
true. Like it takes the moment much more seriously. Like in that Superman 2 scene, you hear like whimsical John Williams Superman theme, and then you look at all this like, oh,
It's a little bit
um
much like darker and
like
yeah.
Man of Steel takes it much more seriously. And then like obviously
I don't know. I think that's basically it. I don't. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully next week or sometime we'll talk about BVS Ultimate Edition because I'm not gonna watch the theatrical. I own the Ultimate Edition, so that's good. I'll watch that before we do that review. Let me know what you guys thought of the Snyder Cut trailer. Most of you guys didn't like my opinion, which is not surprising. I do have a trailer reaction for that if you guys want to go check that out. So yeah, thank you
yeah,
for Peter.
yeah, no, thank you, Austin, for having me on. Well, I look forward to this series. The last thing I'll say, I guess, as I close my closing statements is Man of Steel score
Oh yeah,
is yeah no I think it has an absolutely incredible score. I think it's the best score in a comic book movie, and I'd honestly put Hans Zimmer's Superman theme over John Williams' Superman theme. Like I think it's kind of like one of those things where John Williams' theme summarizes the Superman as an icon, whereas Hans Zimmer's theme summarizes Superman as a character. And I really love
mm,
that character aspect of Superman because basically, I think all the best Superman stories revolve around an internal conflict that Superman's going through. I feel like
yeah,
that's like the most interesting stories about him. And that's what like Man of Steel and BVS we're really dealing with. And I know you have your qualms about BVS and everything, and we'll address those when we get there. But I think something that you have talked about is like you actually really do like the Superman aspect of things,
I do like
and
yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, I mean, like I
yeah,
like how you know with all the courts and all that and all like if this would actually happen, you would most likely if this being was able to talk, you would most likely be like trying to reason with it or like maybe even try to contain it in some way, and that's what mostly what BVS was trying to do is like, can we control Superman? Like, do we know that we can trust him or anything
yeah.
like that?
Which
And
I mean, which yeah, and that obviously ties back into themes of Jonathan Kent and Martha and his parents telling him to kind of keep his powers a secret, which is stuff they do tell him in the comics.
mhm,
And so no, yeah, like I'd say that Man of Steel might be my favorite movie ever. We'll see how things go with just the continuation of this series and Zack Snyder's arc. Because what he was doing is he was basically doing a 5 movie arc for Superman. I've mentioned this on your channel before. We're starting with Man of Steel, where he's just beginning and just starting out to BVS as,
yeah.
and then the Justice League 1, 2, and 3, and we'll kind of get like he was basically building him up to become that ideal Superman essentially. So we'll see how things go. Thanks for having me on. Overall, I'd probably give Man of Steel an A+. I think it's one of the best
I'll
solo
give it,
superhero
yeah.
movies ever,
I would
if
probably
not
give it a
maybe
B
the
plus.
best.
No.
So yeah, no, but thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah. Um, be expecting the BVS very soon. That's going to be actually a very interesting episode, probably more entertaining. So I mean, if they want to give it a rated R, even though it's not really rated R for just one fight scene, that episode will be definitely rated R. There might be a little bit of foul language, but fun foul language, not directly towards you. It's mostly just towards the movie. So yeah. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for Peter for coming out. Be ready for BVS. That'll be out very soon. Thank you guys very much for watching. Even I'll put you guys even talked about on Fam and Rant episode, which you guys really did a series and dive down, which would I will put that down in the description so you guys can check that out because they really go really deep in detail about the DCU on that. So if you guys are really interested in that and Peter's thoughts, you guys can go check that out. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. And like always, I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye, guys.